Uh, I have an invitation as we're beginning, which is truly an invitation. If you are comfortable having your camera on, I would love to see you. And if you're not, of course, you can leave your camera off. Right now, I turned my own view off because I don't need to see that. And so I'm looking just at black boxes, which is a little like talking into the void. So it's helpful to see faces, but today is very much about honoring what works for you. That's my invitation. Feel free to unmute yourself. That would be my preference, and just speak. Rather than putting any questions in the chat, I have a hard time looking at the chat in the midst of working at the same time. I get a little distracted and it just confuses me. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and just ask them. That's completely fine with me. So let's begin today. I'd like to begin in a way I begin a lot of my classes and my work with people. And it's a practice I'd like to offer. So I'm going to start right off with a little practice, and I call it the 1-minute transition. You don't need to worry about time or even pay attention to it. That's my job. And this is a practice that you can use anytime you're coming from one place to another, or coming from one activity to another. And it's a way to allow you to come into where you are a little bit more, rather than carrying whatever came before. And along with my earlier invitation, I'd also like to put out there that whatever I say today, if something lands with you, then it lands with you today. And if it doesn't land with you, you can let it go. You don't have to try to get this class. There's nothing you need to accomplish by the end of it. That's the experience for you. That's my offering today. So the 1-minute transition, wherever you are, get a little comfortable, whatever that means for you. You can close your eyelids if that would be comfortable. If it's not, don't do it. And what we're going to do is simply let a minute go by. And in this minute, there's nothing that you have to get done. You don't have to be different by the end of it. You don't have to be calmer. You don't have to be better. It's time in which trying to be different. And the funny thing is that could even sound like something you're supposed to do. You're supposed to not try to be different. And if you hear it that way, then that's not even what you need to do. We're really simply just going to let a minute go by without any job. Okay, so wherever you are, you can close your eyelids if that's okay, and we'll begin. Now, as we're ending that, just know a little different than when we started. And if you do, notice that. And if you don't, notice that. And I'd like to offer this, if this is all you take away today, this practice of the 1 minute transition, that's plenty to take away. I like to offer it because our minds can get into this state where we're so focused on the next thing that we need to do. And in that, we're also focused on what came before. And we're missing out on where we are. And this focus on the next thing and where we were is a huge component of stress and anxiety and depression. And it's even a component of physical pain. So I'm offering this 1 minute transition to you, called the 1 minute transition. Can be used anytime you're transitioning from one thing to another. So for instance, when I come home, I might walk to my home before I step inside. Literally, you can turn a timer on your phone, just set it for a minute, and just stop and let that minute pass. And here we did it wherever you were before you came today. We came here. This is a new thing we're transitioning into. Do that transition. When I work with people, I usually do it at the beginning for both of us. And when I finish working with people and we say goodbye, I'll do it again for myself to let go of whatever came before. And it's a subtle, just hopefully easier way, an invitation into where you are, rather than where you think you're supposed to be going, and rather than wherever you were. There are a few practices I was thinking about offering today. I'd like to offer experiential work, so I find that is what lands with people the most is your own experience and what's happening for you. So we'll be exploring a little bit today. And excuse me, something is bothering my sinuses today. We'll touch on some fundamentals of the body, and then also touch a little bit on the mind as well. So this is not a comprehensive class by any means. I wanted to throw some things out there to see what sticks for you. Just a little bit about me. I like to know about people that I'm working with, so I'll share that with you. I use this work. This work is a distillation of numerous practices that I myself have trained in. I was a trained dancer, and then I trained in Pilates and yoga and the Alexander Technique and meditation and read a lot. And so now this work is a distillation of all these things. And the main reason I pursued most of those is because of my own history with anxiety and depression since I was a child. And it has been very intense. And I reached a point in my life where I just thought I cannot keep living this way. And started to pursue, I would try out anything that seemed like it would help. And many things do. And I started to see how combined mental and emotional health is with physical health. But now that I said that statement, that's a misleading statement. So don't take that one don't look at that too closely. It's much more complex than that statement just made it sound. More accurately, as I started to see how much our mental world gets signaled. I don't like the way I'm saying that either. How about this? I'll try to keep it cleaner. The body can wake you up to what's happening in your mind. I'll put that out there. But I'm not going to go into it too much because that's what the whole practice is about. So today, the things that came to me today are some of these fundamentals, and one fundamental is about two good friends, things that I call two good friends, which are the ground and breath. And I call these two good friends because most of the time in our lives, they are always there for you. We can tend to take them for granted, forget that they're there. But when we reconnect with our two good friends, breath and the ground, we can start to ease a lot in ourselves. So we're going to come at this a little more from a body perspective now. When we're not connected to the ground in an experiential way, all these different things can compensate in the body, which drain our energy, contribute to any tightening that's happening in you. If you have any sort of injuries or illness happening in you, this disconnect from the ground experientially just makes things worse. So I purposely titled today's session, Reducing physical and emotional pain and stress rather than eliminating. So there might be times, I don't know why that physical pain is there. If I get hit in the shoulder, that's going to be some physical pain that I can't necessarily just get rid of. But what this work is about is understanding how we might unconsciously be contributing to our own pain and what we can do about it. So it's very liberating for the individual, which is why I love this work. It means that you get to take a more active role in your own being. So what does this mean to be experientially connected to the ground? Let's find out. If you are able, come on up to standing. If you're not, then you don't. You don't do what you can't do. And very often we try to do what we can't do, and that's where strain and stress and especially mental stress come into play. Today is not about that. Today is doing what you're able to do, not getting down on yourself for trying to do what you're not able to do. So if you're able to come to standing. We'll do something sitting and we'll do something lying down. So hopefully there's something in there for everyone. Let me turn on my self view so I can make sure you can see me. Although it's really not that important that you see me because this is an experiential class. So once you're standing, start to bring some awareness to where you are literally connected to the ground. And since I can't see anyone, and I'm going to talk about it in the first person from myself. So where I'm noticing I'm literally connecting to the ground is under my feet. So that's a pretty general connection. So notice just literally where is the ground touching you? We're just starting there. Then you can let it get just a little more detailed, like where is there more pressure? Where is there less pressure? You don't have to try to even it out. We don't have to be symmetrical right now. Just begin to notice where these connections are. If it's under your feet, is it the entire sole of the foot where the ground is connecting? There's some areas of the feet that aren't, the sole of the foot that isn't connected to the ground. We're just noticing that, not saying it's good or bad, not trying to fix it or change it. Just noticing where it's happening. Then you start to bring your awareness up from that connection, starting to flow up your body. Because the ground is really what supports your body. It supports your whole body. And sometimes we kind of get stuck on thinking the legs hold up the body, which is a strange thing to say if we look at that sentence, that the legs hold up the body. Because how can the legs hold up the body when the legs are part of the body? How can a part hold up the whole thing? It doesn't quite make sense. And yet we physically treat our legs like they're trying to hold us up quite a bit, which is quite tiring for legs to do. So we're starting to bring our awareness and mentally get in touch with what's really holding us up, which is the ground. It's quite deep. There's the floor. And then even below that, there's the foundation if you're in a building. Below that, there's the earth. So it's really something very solid holding you up. And since there's something so solid holding you up, you don't have to be so solid in yourself trying to hold yourself up. So we start to come up for the ground, up through the feet, the lower legs, the upper legs, up into the pelvis, and the torso, the spine, into the shoulders, into the neck, into the head. Even way up here, up in your head is ultimately supported all the way from the ground. Now bring that awareness in. You're just going to very gently, subtly start to play with shifting a little more forward on that ground connection, and notice what happens. Whatever you notice happens in your body as you shift forward and then back. And play with that a little bit, just shifting forward and back. And maybe a little bit bigger. I don't know how big you're going. So if you're already going big, go a little smaller. Notice what happens when you shift forward, because there will be a point as you shift forward where your body has to tighten up. Something has to begin to grab. Because if it didn't, you would probably fall. Well, you wouldn't probably fall, you would definitely fall. So that grabbing is really brilliant. It's like your body's saying, I don't want to fall. So it grabs. That's beautiful. It's wonderful that it's grabbing. It often doesn't really feel that great, but it's great that it's doing it because it's protecting itself. Now, why are we getting in touch with this little grab? If you shift forward a little bit and you feel that grab, and just stay there for a moment, not so long, you're not trying to cause any problems here. So if I'm inviting anything that seems to cause any problem in you, back off from it. That's not what we're doing today. That's not the point of these explorations. So if you shift a little forward, you feel that grab, you just stay there for a moment. Notice again that connection with the ground. Because when we're in this grabbed place, we're not really letting the ground support us anymore. And many of us are in some state like this a lot through the day without even knowing it. And if you just imagined if you stayed here for hours, how tiring and stressful. I mean, I'm already feeling it in my neck. That's where I feel it the most. I feel a grab all over the place in my legs, my low back, but for some reason it's really showing up on my neck right now. If you imagine staying there for hours every day, that is going to be pretty exhausting. And if there are any issues going on in your body, that is just going to compound them. So back off a little bit, come back to letting the ground support you, to where that grab can lessen, the body can just soften a little bit. And play with that just a couple more times. Little shift forward. There's the grab. And then just back off from it. I was doing that this morning actually when I was walking the dog that I take care of. She was staring at something and just standing there. So I was standing there with her and just asked, where's the ground? Where's my literal connection with the ground? And once I asked that, I just felt my whole body shift back a little bit. Oh, there it is. It was quite subtle, but I just wasn't letting the ground support me. And I can tell you why. It's because I was preparing to walk forward. I was waiting for this dog to move again. So I was in mid, almost about to step, but just waiting. So I was waiting with all this tension that I really didn't need. Once I asked, where is my literal support? Where is my literal connection with the ground? Oh, there it is. Okay, now I'm not waiting to step forward. I'm just standing. So you might notice as well, if you just shift forward even maybe a little bit less, so it's not so big you're about to fall, just a little bit, might feel a little, that has this forward momentum to it. It's like we're waiting to go forward. We're about to go forward, but we're not. So if we're not going forward, we might as well come back. Where's the ground? So let's do another little exploration with this. You might want to take a slightly wider than hip width stance. It's a little more challenging with narrower feet. Well, for most people, but you could be the exception. Maybe so. Generally, a slightly wider stance is easier. And you can imagine like you have paint on your fingertips. And you're going to start to paint the space around you. And we'll start with the space above your hips. So above your head as well, and all around you behind. And what you're doing as you're painting this space is the whole time you're very aware of where that connection with the ground is. So if I get too stuck on having to reach somewhere, like behind me, oh, I'm not actually connected, I'm not clear with my connection with the ground anymore. I feel that tension in my body because I'm in a mid-fall and my body grabbed to protect itself. Where's the ground? Ah, there it is. Now I'm supported and can move. Just explore a bit. This is not about how far you can get. I've really given you this movement so you can play with what is it like to move and have that conscious connection with the ground at the same time. That's what we're playing with. And every once in a while, if you find just kind of going everywhere, just pause for a moment. And in your mind, ask again, where's my literal support? Where's my literal connection with the ground? You don't have to go find it with your eyes. We don't necessarily want to get in that pattern. We don't want to be looking down all the time. But it's this internal sense. There's the ground. And even if you can't feel it, sometimes people have like neuromas in their feet, or neuropathy, and the sensation of the feet is not as bright as it might be for others. That's okay. I'm not talking about trying to feel it. I'm talking about becoming aware of it, which is slightly different. I'm just throwing that out there. So if that comes in, you're like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, what's that mean? Don't worry about it. Just keep playing around. We can ask at the end if you have any questions. We'll see. So now start to include in this painting the space below your hips. A lot of us are not used to moving into this space. And if we are, we're used to moving into it in a way that is like an interrupted fall. So this is a chance. Where's that support from the ground? That ground supports me all the way through my body. Now I'm doing this not to show you how far you should go, because that's me, that's my body, that's my exploration. I'm doing it so I'm just not standing here. But you do your own exploration. We all get to do what works for us, which is such a key. A lot of times our mental, emotional stress and physical pain as well comes from trying to be something other than what we are, trying to be some person other than what we are, trying to be like our mother, our father, our neighbor, our best friend, this someone we don't even know. Trying to be like me, being in a classroom setting can be very stimulating. Oh, Ian's doing that, I should do that. No, you're not me. The person you see on your screen right now is not you, it's me. So you're finding what works for you. And every once in a while, just pause. I might be reaching out here and pause. Where's my little connection with the ground? Boy, my right foot right now is really trying to grab the ground because I'm essentially falling again. Where is my connection? There's the ground support that gets to come all the way through me. Okay, now I can move. I really like doing this. This one always makes me think of putting away dishes. Moving from here to there, back again. So putting away dishes really becomes this dance of a ground connection. You'll find what it connects to for you. Start to let that go. And if you're able, take a little walk around your space. Notice whatever you experience, what you're noticing physically, what you're noticing emotionally, what you're noticing cognitively, like what are you thinking about? There's nothing right or wrong about it. Becoming aware. Then come on back and come to a seated position if that's available for you. Because many of us spend a lot of our day seated. So we can also ask this question, where's my literal support when I'm seated? And when we're asking that, there's a particular connection that can help us out. And that connection, in layman's term, we call the sits bones. This is my little mobile skeleton. This is Harold. I don't know why his name is Harold. That just came out of my mouth one day. And here's the thing about Harold. He represents no one. This is no one's skeleton. Nobody's skeleton looks like this. Now I'm trying to make a joke about his size. It's a generic skeleton. So he's not here for you to compare yourself to him. That's not his purpose. His purpose is to give a very general understanding of some bones. So here's Harold's head, his spine, down into his pelvis. Here's his tail. And then here is one of his sits bones. And that is often what we are, I was going to say it's often what we're sitting on, but actually it's often what we're not sitting on. We're often sitting back here on the tail. So we're not going to try to sit on the sits bone. Instead, we're going to see what happens when we just have a little more awareness of them. So what you're going to do, this can be, you want to be gentle with this. So if you're sitting on like a very hard chair, you might want to put a little towel or a blanket or something a little softer on it. Again, you're not trying to hurt yourself. So just because I offer something that might work for others, if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. You're going to take one hand and slip it underneath that same side, your glute muscles, your cheek there, and just slip forward and see if you can find that sits bone on that side. And for a lot of us, when we first start to do this, the sits bone is not where we thought it was going to be. Like, oh, here, nope, no, that's not it. And sometimes you have to push in a bit to find it. Sometimes you push in because you're pushing in because you think it's one place, and boy, it's really not there. You got to go exploring a little bit. Oh, there it is. Like, oh, that's, when I was in my Alexander training, we had this funny day where we were actually sitting on one another's hands to get this sense of the sits bones. And many of the people in my training identified as women. And they put their hands down. I sat on their hands and they couldn't find my sits bones. And they were so confused. They couldn't figure it out. And I had to direct them that my sits bones are much more narrow than theirs were. And I think it's because my hips were not made for having a baby. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my guess. So your sits bones might not be in the place you think. So just find that one. And if it's hard to get in there, you can just slide your hand in a little bit. You might even just touch it with your fingertip, because this is part of that literal connection with the ground. You can take a little rock forward and back to get to know it. It can move when you move. Get to know its shape a little bit. You don't have to draw, you don't have to write a paper on it. So when I'm saying get to know it, I don't necessarily mean get to know it in a way that you can then put it into words. This is getting to know it as an experience. You can take a little circle. So what we're doing here is the body, we can think of the body like an instrument that you're just playing every day. And we'd like to play it with a little more finesse. So we're not banging away at it. And we get to know how it works as well. So we're not asking the body to do something that it really can't do very well and might do better in another fashion. So now you roll around a little bit. Don't do the other side. Just take that hand out. Let it rest where it will. You can close your eyes again. And just notice if there's any difference here. between one side and the other. You might notice a difference in the way your sits bones are contacting whatever you're sitting on. You might notice a difference higher up in your breathing. So we're getting to know our good friend, the ground, who's always there in our relationship with the ground. Take your other hand, let's do the other side, slip that under. So you're just, if it's available, you're just gently sitting on your hand. I'm on a cushion, so it's easier to do. But say I were sitting on a wooden chair, which my computer's on right now, I would not sit directly on my hand because that would be painful for my hand. A little pillow or something down, or just point in. Take a little rock on this side, forward and back. You can close your eyelids if that's nice. A little side to side, maybe a circle. It's getting to know this connection with the ground. And when you're sitting, if you're sitting on a chair, the chair now becomes part of the ground. So the chair, in addition to the floor, is now your literal connection, that literal support from the ground that supports you through your whole body, all the way to your head. Finessing the way we use our instrument. Slip that hand out. Sitting there, close your eyelids. Just notice anything that's different. What you're feeling physically, what you're feeling emotionally, what you're thinking. You may notice something in each of those places. You may not notice anything in any of them, which is okay. Now let's come to lying down. So when you come to lie down, I'd like you to, if they're available, get a few paperback books. If you can lie down on a more firm surface, that will generally work better. And again, I really want to emphasize generally because your particular circumstances, I don't know what they are. So if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. When you come down, those paperback books are for the back of your head. You can lie down, and if it's available, have your legs bent and the soles of your feet resting on the floor. And those books under your head. And it's generally, again, really going to emphasize generally, it's generally better to have that stack of books slightly too high than too low. But that is not the case for everybody. What's really best is to not do something that causes pain. And boy, can I just emphasize that sentence again? What's best is to not do something that causes pain. And I want to emphasize that because we're well, I don't know you, but if you're anything like me and many people I know, we are often unconsciously doing something that causes us pain, emotional pain or physical pain. And often it's so subtle, we don't catch that it's even happening. But many of us live our lives this way, that we are pushing ourselves to be different. Oh, gosh, even in physical pain, it's there. If that physical pain is happening and we are stuck in this mental place where we're saying this shouldn't be happening, this pain should be gone, I shouldn't have it. It creates this tension in us because it is happening. And that causes more pain, that compounds the pain that's already there. So the best we can do is to stop doing something that we know, that we recognize harms us. What a gift that can be to yourself. So as you're lying there, bring that awareness again to where your connection with the ground is. Now there are many more places. Begin to notice that. Where is my connection with the ground? This is a question. My work with people, they call these questions genuine questions. I call them that because it's to initiate a kind of process. So if you're walking outside, you're at the grocery store, you pass somebody and they say, "Hi, how are you?" "I'm fine. How are you?" "I'm fine." On you go. The "how are you" is not a genuine question. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a greeting. That's fine. Generally, the person is not genuinely asking how you are. Very different if you were to sit down with a friend and they say, "How are you?" And they want to know. You can tell that they are open to whatever you would say, whether it's that you're doing amazing or horribly or whatever it is. That person just opens himself and says, "I want to know. I want to know it all, whatever it is." That's such a good friend. So that's a genuine question when we're open to really knowing it all, not just what we expect. That's not a genuine question. I don't know what to call that. So this question of where is my literal connection with the ground? You can ask it of yourself genuinely. And open up to the answer that you really want to know. And when you ask it that way, it can help begin to calm your mind. So your mind begins to open up in this way as well, rather than the mind trying to answer it. Where is my connection with the ground? Okay, well, it should be here and here and here. Let me answer all this stuff. No, you just open up to the experience. Here's my connection. If it needs to be put into words, that happens later. First, it's the experience. Where is my connection with the ground? Lying down in this way can be a lovely practice when you have the time. So at the end of the day, to resettle your body, to begin to resettle your mind, to ask this in a genuine way. It can be very nice at night. If you're lying in bed, many of us bring our tension of the day to bed with us. I bet many of you can identify with that. Where is my support? And if you stay with that, you might begin to notice things in your body begin to let go, things in your mind begin to let go. Because the body is no longer trying to hold itself together. Keep it together. It's in our language. Hold yourself together. Tiring. Tiring to try to do something that you actually don't have to do anyway. You don't have to hold yourself together. Now, as you're lying there, noticing the ground, your connection with the ground, I'd like you to simply offer to yourself the permission for your mind to calm. You don't have to do it. I wouldn't know how to make my mind calm down. And my experience is anytime I've tried to make my mind calm down, that requires more effort, more tension, more energy, more strain. So instead, you're simply offering to yourself the permission for your mind to calm. Whether or not it does right now is not really your business. Your job is to offer the permission for your mind to calm. You can also offer the permission for your body to let go of anything unnecessary in the moment. Now, if your mind starts to say, what does that mean? What am I supposed to let go of? Oh, I need to let go of this. This is too tight. Da, 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 da. There goes the mind. Say, I don't have to do that. And you come back to the beginning and you give permission for your mind to calm. And your body to let go of anything unnecessary in the moment. Permission for the mind to calm and the body to let go of anything that's unnecessary in the moment. If you're experiencing higher levels of pain, sometimes this can be quite challenging. because you might want to try to force the pain away by creating tension in yourself. You might even recognize that you've tried that before. If it works, oh yeah, do it. If it doesn't work, just for now, stop doing it. This is also a beautiful gift you can give yourself to stop doing something that doesn't work. Oh, the mind can rail against that. It can say, but you have to do something. If you don't do this, what are you going to do? I don't know what to replace it with, so just keep doing it. Just for now. It's not about your whole life. It's just for now. Give yourself permission to not do something that doesn't work. Permission for the mind to calm and the body to let go of anything that's not necessary in this moment. And now one last exploration. In a moment, not yet, but in a moment, I'm going to ask you to come from lying down back to your device, your computer or phone, wherever you access today. And as you do it, the exploration is to give yourself the time to do that, to move from lying down back to your device in a way that allows you to stay curious and aware of your literal connection with the ground. This time, that connection is going to be moving because you're moving. And at any time as you're moving, if you find you're beginning to get tense, a little stressed around it, perhaps pause in that moment because you might have lost your good friend, the ground, and its support. And it's worthwhile to rediscover it. So probably move slower, maybe, than you usually do. It's fine. This is not how you have to live and move your whole life. It's something we're doing right now. We're finessing the instrument. So when you're ready, start to come from lying down back to sitting, if that's what's going to work from you. And allow it to take the time it takes to explore that literal connection with the ground. That is our class today. Again, I'd like to offer anything that landed for you today, take that away. Anything that didn't, let it go. It wasn't for you today. That might have been for someone else. What we played with today was the minute transition. Set that timer whenever you go from one place to another. Just set it for a minute. Let that time go by. We played with your literal connection with the ground in standing, in sitting with the sits bones, in lying down, and giving permission to calm and to let go of what doesn't work.
Ian, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I see folks are thanking you in the chat. We also had a question about the recording, and I just wanted to reiterate that I will send that out tomorrow to the folks that registered. So if you came in late, or if you would like to revisit this, which I'm sure many folks would, that recording will be available to you starting tomorrow.
Can I offer one more thing, Mimi?
Please do.
Just want to say thank you for everyone. I'm Ian Jorgenson again. If you'd like to contact me, you can find me on my website, which is happybodyclearmind.com. I have numerous free classes on my website that are recordings of kind of similar things we did today. I put those out there. I want to make them accessible to people. And if you'd like to explore this work further personally with me, you can schedule a free consultation with me through my website, through Zoom. I'm happy to talk to you if you have any questions. Just reach out anytime.
We've really enjoyed having you here today, Ian. Folks, if you enjoyed it as well, you can always drop the library a line and say you'd like to continue with these types of programs offered to you. And Ian, we thank you again so much for your time and your generosity of sharing what you know with us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mimi. Thank you, Bloomington Library.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Take care.